All right. Again, my name is Micheal McCarty. I am a professional storyteller. I run my mouth for a living. And I love to tell stories. I was very excited to be asked to do the keynote at this function, Artists for Action, because that's me. And that's what I know. So, I'm a storyteller, so I'm going to tell you some stories. Artists are the gatekeepers of truth. We are civilization's radical voice. Paul Robeson. I feel that every artist must have political training. They must know the working people of the world. Since I became an activist, I have never separated life from art. Francis E. Williams. Now, how many of you have heard of Paul Robeson? All right, I'm impressed. How many of you have heard of Francis E. Williams? Not one person? All right, I'm impressed with that. Paul Robeson was a Renaissance man. Phi Beta Kappa at Rutgers University, lettered in 5 sports. First Black All-American in football, 1917 and 1918. His father had been a slave. Valedictorian, went to law school at Columbia, came out of law school, worked for a law office. The white secretary would not take dictation from him because he was black, and he said, screw this, I'm paraphrasing. I'm out of here. Because he had played professional football, he had done some acting, and he had done some singing. And so he, in his time, became one of the most famous entertainers in the world. He was the first person to take a program of Negro spirituals and perform them. But he quickly became an activist. Back in those times, very often at theaters where he was performing, blacks either were relegated to the back of the theater or to the balcony or not allowed in at all. And Paul Robeson said, I ain't having that. If my people can't come in, I'm not performing. Now, one of the people he met along the way, or I should say who met him, was Francis E. Williams. Francis E. Williams was a young woman who got involved in theater and wanted to learn more about theater. She was studying theater in Ohio. Well, she wanted to study theater, but none of the theater schools would accept her because she was black. So Robeson and Langston Hughes told her, you should go to Russia. So she went to Russia. She went to Russia and got the training that she needed and came back. In the 1940s, she came out here to Hollywood. She did not work in a movie for 5 years. Because back in those times, if a black woman was in a movie, she was a maid. She had to wear a bandana. And Francis E. Williams wasn't wearing no bandana. She did this one movie where every black woman who had ever been, show something, had ever been in that movie, had worn a bandana. 17 times in the making of that film, they bought her a bandana. And 17 times, she wouldn't put it on. Now, these were 2 people who had this mindset. Paul Robeson commanded 6-7 figures. We're talking in the 30s, in the 40s. Now you think he had it made, but he never forgot what was going on for his people and the oppressed people. Now Paul Robeson spoke 20-something languages. Wherever he went in the world, he sang songs of the common people. He brought their stories to light, and he made a point. He had an obligation to do something about the injustices that he saw. The artist must elect to fight for freedom or for slavery. I have made my choice. I had no alternative. He spoke out. He spoke out against lynching. In fact, Paul Robeson and a group of artists went to President Truman to ask him to do something about the lynchings that were going on. And Truman said something like, well, we don't think it's time. Paul Robeson got all up in President Truman's face and said, if you don't do something about it, we'll do something ourselves. Now, when you're outspoken, sometimes you pay a price. And Paul Robeson paid a price. House Un-American Activities, McCarthy era came. Paul Robeson was stripped of his passport. He wasn't even allowed to go to Mexico and Canada, where you didn't need a passport. But that didn't stop him. He was supposed to do a concert in Canada. They wouldn't let him go. So he went to the Canadian border. He stood on the American side of the border, and his audience came to where he was on the Canadian side and listened to him perform. He was supposed to do a concert in England. They wouldn't let him go. He did the concert over the phone. Oh yeah. Wouldn't let nobody stop him. When he went before the House Un-American Activities Committee, he had spent a lot of time in Russia. He had sent his son to school in Russia because they weren't having to deal with the racism that was going on in this country. Before the House Un-American Activities Committee, they said to him, if you like Russia so much, why don't you go there and stay there? And he said something to the effect, because my people helped to build this country, gave their lives and blood for this country, and no fascist-minded individuals are gonna stop me and my people from enjoying the benefits of this country. Frances Williams, oh, she caused all kinds of scum. Like I said, you never heard of her. Frances E. Williams was one of those people who was behind the scenes, because she knew if she could get in behind the scenes, she would see what was going on. In '65, after the Watts riots, an organization was put together to bring arts into Watts. Now, the board of directors included Roman Polanski, and we all know of his great intimate involvement with Watts, right? Gregory Peck, another actor who is known for his great involvement with the Watts community. They were given $3 million to bring arts into Watts, into the black community. You know, wasn't a penny of that money gonna make its way into the black community. She figured that out. Now, they didn't bring her onto the board, so she got in working on costumes, and she listened. And when people were talking about what they were gonna do with that money, she took notes. She got everybody fired. And the ironic thing was that one of the director who she got fired, his wife came and asked her to put together the going away party. And she said, well, since you're going away, I'll be happy to do that. Now, Frances went before the House Un-American Activities Committee too. And she said, I have been told by my friends that I should cooperate with you, because if I don't cooperate, you will destroy my career. Well, truth be told, I haven't had an acting job in about 4 years. I ain't got much of a career to destroy, so y'all can just take that and stick it where the sun don't shine. Frances E. Williams took no mess. Artists have always been in the forefront of speaking out. In fact, so much so that in just about every situation, in any totalitarian, in any domineering governmental situation, one of the first groups of people that are assaulted are the artists. The McCarthy era. Artists have a job. We have a job to do. We have a job to let people know. You're going to hear a little bit about Manzanar and the prisoner camps that the Japanese were put in during World War II, a little later on. One of my storytelling friends, that's one of the things she does. She gathers those stories. That's what we do as artists, through paintings, through exhibits about ecology, through poetry. We speak out because that's what we're here for. To attract and keep an audience, art must entertain. But the significance of any art lies in its ability to express truths, to reveal and help understand the world. That's the author of Calvin and Hobbes, Bill Watterson, okay? Artists, we are the fly in the ointment. We stir things up. We piss people off. Oh yeah, that's what we do. That's what we do. Back in the 60s, I got kicked out of a Black Studies program for being too black. All right, and that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to raise Cain. We're supposed to raise Scunion. We're supposed to open people's eyes and let them see what's going on, because it's all too easy to put a blind eye to the things that are going on around us. We got to speak up. We got to make some noise. I'm going to leave you with one last quote. This is from a friend of mine, a storytelling friend of mine, Diane Wolstein, who just passed away last month. She was one of the hearts and soul of the storytelling movement in this country. She was the official storyteller for New York City, told at the in Central Park for decades. We have to always ask, who's benefiting from the stories being told in the mass media? There are two kinds of storytellers. Those whose tale reinforce the status quo, who once upon a time would have been the entertainers to the king, to the courts of the powerful. And then there's those who would tell the stories of protest. The spirit of rebellion is crucial to us all. Artists, raise Cain, raise Scunion, piss people off. And that's the end of that.